Hello, welcome everybody. There's a lot of people in here now. It's hot today, isn't it? Sorry, in the UK, very, very hot. Okay, I think we'll start. Been as 1 minute past 11. So hello everyone. Thank you for joining us today for today's Arum Academy webinar. Smarter Recoveries by Design, why litigation decisions must be insights driven. I'm Jason from Arum Global, and our mission at Arum is to protect the world's most trusted brands as they manage the difficult process of collecting what they are owed. Now, today's session is about a very specific challenge that we consistently see across the market. It's not a lack of data, not a lack of tooling, but a lack of confidence in how those decisions are sort of driving the systems. So at Arum, we work with creditors, services, technology providers across the globe to improve their recoveries and performance, strengthen customer outcomes, and bring greater control and transparency into the decision making. And one thing we see time and time again is this: litigation decisions are still being driven by incomplete, disconnected, and outdated information. So in an environment where legal costs are rising, and regulatory scrutiny is increasing and customer expectations are shifting, that's no longer sustainable. So today we have one central question. How do we make better, more informed recovery decisions consistently and at scale? And to explore that, I'm really super excited to be joined by Panos and Gabor from Relational. Now, I'm sure you've all heard of Relational, but Relational has more than 30 years of experience supporting financial institutions and services across 35 countries, with extensive experience across collections, recoveries, and litigations operations. Now, before we begin, we'd like to get into the discussion in more depth. We'd like to hear from the audience with a quick poll. So, question we're asking today is, what is the biggest debt management challenge in your organization today? Is it managing legal and litigation workflows efficiently, keeping pace with compliance and regulatory changes, improving customer engagement and contact strategies, working across fragmented systems and processes? So, what's everyone thinking? What's your thoughts on this, Panos?
Yes, I think these are challenges of that we face today because we are running these as relational in a number of countries and a number of customers. So I believe all of them are challenges of today, and I would like to see from our audience what is, let's say, their most pain in this area.
Well, I've had a few responses so far, so thank you for that. I'd also encourage anybody who's got any questions to post them so we can go through those at the end of the chat. Looking at the results, quite interesting, because that's something that we see consistently across organizations, is that most of the challenges, they don't exist in isolation. I mean, the biggest one at the moment is fragmented and manual processes, which is great, because I remember when we looked through the Arum Approved with you guys, when we did the Arum Approved certification, one thing I particularly liked was around the creating of settlements, where you could make the payment arrangements, not just at the account level, but the customer level, and then proportion payments and things like that. That's fantastic. But there are also typically symptoms of underlying issues, which is disconnected decision-making across systems, teams, and processes. And nowhere is that more visible than in recoveries and litigation. Now, before we jump into solutions, let's be clear on the problem. So, Gabor, from your perspective, where do organizations get this wrong today? And specifically, where do these challenges start to impact litigation decisions in practice?
Thanks for the question and welcome everyone. Still just wondering around the results of the poll, and but I think it's not in any contradiction to the slide that we are seeing at the same time, because working across fragmented systems and manual processes is kind of result of the evolution, which is affecting all the 4 points listed in this slide. So technically, that's a legacy situation in many organizations. Like, information is not stored at one final ultimate central place. Like I've seen very bad examples or through the industry, even leading industry members, like collateral information in 7 different databases within one financial institution. They never know if something, I mean, they never know if everything is registered or everything registered multiple times, or if multiple times, how can they recognize it? And so that's a totally that's a challenging basic situation from the data point of view, and that's already a big issue. And if you check on the legal processes, I mean, law was never an easy field to play, and country by country, and also like in all situations, like EU umbrella under everything or above everything, it's something that gives you another angle of challenges. So not easy to keep your focus path when you are doing the litigation management. And regulatory is also mentioned for a reason, because more and more emphasis on how customers should be treated, what is the right approach. In the UK, you can talk about vulnerability a lot, and also in the European Union regulations, we have a lot of things. These are things which, in many situations, the organizations who suffer from these regulations, things like they are burden on their shoulder. But at the same time, if the regulatory is taking care of good things, I mean, with goodwill, they can sweep the market from the players who technically wouldn't play the right and clean way, and technically it's also somehow forces the improvement of all our approaches. And last but not least, the communication inefficiencies in the last few years. Everyone has seen the evolution of digital channels and every type of automated communications towards the debtors. And this all looks very fancy and nice, but you can also get lost in the channels. Like someone said something here, and customer answered something else there, and this is also a different art to pull them together and keep up a meaningful conversations. So that and these are just 4 very visible challenges from the hundreds that we face. So technically, just referring back to the result of the poll, like working across fragmented system and manual processes, this is somehow totally natural consequence of all the others. And if this didn't sound optimistic, I'm sorry about it. So technically there are solutions for everything, but let's start from the challenges point of view, and then we can find some way out. That's it from me.
Okay, that's it. I mean, that's really useful framing, and especially within the challenges. And I think it highlights a common assumption that we see, that stronger recoveries, simply means more legal action. But in reality, we see the opposite. Poor decision making leading to inefficient, mistimed, or unnecessary litigation. So let's shift the conversation to what better looks like. And I'm going to hand over to Panos for this one. I mean, let's simplify this. There's a lot of discussion in the market around transformation, AI, new tooling, new AI, and everything. It's a buzzword that we're all hearing left, right, and centre at the moment. But from your perspective, what does a well-functioning recoveries operating model actually look like in practice? So, and more importantly, I suppose, is how do organisations move towards that without trying to rebuild everything from scratch?
Thank you, Jason. Also would like to welcome our attendees in today's webinar. So I think many organizations try to solve these problems by adding more tools following the best of breed approach. So they buy one tool for collection, and maybe another for legal recoveries, another for communication purposes, and of course another for reporting and analytics. Now, each tool may solve part of the problem, but together they often create more complexity, more integration effort, and more operational silos. Okay, so our view is different. Smarter recoveries are not achieved by buying a number 4 or 5 or 3, I don't know, separate tools. They are achieved by designing one operating model around 4 simple actions that you can see on the screen. Decide, execute, engage, and learn. Every recovery operation performs these 4 activities every day. The real question is whether they happen across disconnected systems or whether they are engineered as a connected loop. Decide means using data, segmentation, and decision intelligence to choose the right next action for each customer or account. Execute means turning that decision into action through loan management, collection, recoveries, restructuring, litigation, or workout processes. Careful, without manual handoffs.
Yeah.
Engage means reaching the customer consistently across the right channel, whether through an agent, a dialer, a virtual agent nowadays, or channels like SMS, WhatsApp, Viber, or even a self-service portal. And finally, learn means using these outcomes, the KPIs, the predictive insights to improve the next decision and close the loop. So when we talk about smarter recoveries by design, we're talking about a continuous operating loop. Okay, every decision creates an action. Every action creates an interaction. Every interaction generates insights, and the insights improve the next decision.
Okay, so let's start with the first verb, decide. So a lot of organisations still rely heavily on balances, aging, and static strategies basically. So when we talk about insight-driven decisions, what does that actually mean to portfolio levels? And critically, I suppose, where does this approach tend to break down in real-world environments?
So in the decide point, the starting point is intelligent segmentation. Not every customer has the same risk profile, the same exposure, the same payment probability or recovery probability, or the same recovery in general potential. If we treat the portfolio as one homogeneous population, litigation decisions become too broad, too generic, and the result is that are also expensive and often late.
Yeah.
In this approach, the first layer is based on predefined conditions. Some cases may be under legal protection. All countries have a relevant law. Some require special treatment. Some may be monitored because they are likely to self-cure. Here also AI can help. And some may require manual override. This is a common request by the officers that they know and we should not bother them. These rules matter because smarter recoveries also need governance and fair treatment. Okay. Now, the second layer. The second layer is quantitative. AI nowadays and machine learning maybe a little bit in the past, the previous years, but now we have also AI can help assess probability of payment exposure risks. This creates a clear strategy groups. that you can see. This is, let's say, the first order approximation approach, but can guide us to the, let's say, the way of thinking and approaching this area. So this can be very high, medium, and low priority segments. The important point is the strategy is not selected by habit or hardwired rules. It is selected by evidence. From there, cases can move into bulk services or workflow execution. Some may require automated communication. Some other may require agent treatment. Other may require restructuring. And some of them may be eligible, keyword eligible for legal action. So this is what makes litigation decision insights driven. Litigation becomes one possible treatment path within a broader decision framework, but not, keep it, not the default escalation path.
Okay, I get it. Okay, so let's move from decision to execution, because one of the biggest gaps that we see is not in defining the actual strategies, but in actually delivering it consistently. So you've outlined two very different architectural approaches there. So from your experience, what does getting it wrong actually look like in your day-to-day organization? So where does the operational friction really show up?
So this is where architecture matters. So, okay, you have the slide now. Okay, here we have two architectures. You see the screen clearly, two architectures. Okay, with the same business outcome, but a very different number of systems. On the left, we have one integrated servicing platform handling debt collection, recoveries, loan management, if required as part of the solution, workout solutions, okay, connected to an external ERP for, let's say, tax and related task through a single integration point. On the right, we have a multi-system environment. This is a typical situation, a debt collection system, a core banking module for loan management, a loan origination system for workout and restructuring. This is standard for the banks. Of course, the same ERP. Okay, and the most important point, a complex integration layer holding all these systems together and
Yeah.
align it.
And that's what we normally see, right? Yeah. Okay. So I think you're going to talk about the integration count.
Okay, so the integration count, okay, is very important because it rarely appears in a feature comparison. In features, when you do your RFPs, okay, you don't count it, but in practice, it dominates the total cost of ownership over time. And why is this? Because every line between this system is a contract. It's a data contract, okay, this is where technical people, an operational contract, and most usually a vendor contract and the respective SLAs. And each one needs specification, testing, monitoring, version management, and ownership from the organization. Okay, so with a unified approach, several operational realities become simpler by design. You get a single customer view by construction, not by reconciliation forced. You get one end-of-day process, one close, and one reconciliation point. You can manage, for example, unmatched payment. It's a common pain with full account and activity context. Okay, so you can see if Panos has get a promise, so you can relate this information rather than moving them between systems that don't have the total context. The workout solution point is also very important. A lot of services especially need loan origination functionality to support restructuring. And EBA also has demanded this. So restructurings have to be EBA compliant. And because restructuring alone can look mechanically like originating a new one, because it has a common new repayment schedule, new terms and conditions, okay, and all this, okay, it is typical that they have to use another system, a loan origination system. But a unified platform supports this within the same operating environment, reducing dependency on separate systems. So this is the execution layer from our perspective, from our experience, that is for me more than 30 years, of smarter recoveries. Fewer handoffs, fewer integration points, and lower operational complexity.
Yeah, we see lots of areas where there's so many different areas of systems that all join together to achieve what companies want them to achieve. Whereas, yeah, I agree with the smart layer. It's fantastic. So let's bring this specifically into litigation now. So this is an area where control, governance especially, and operational efficiency all need to coexist. I mean, you've described a model of daily decisioning with human oversight. And for what we typically see, many organizations are still operating in those much more static cycles. So where are they underutilizing this approach today, and what are they missing as a result?
Okay. Our approach, and I believe the key to your question, so to unlock this situation, I believe, is to make litigation execution both controlled and dynamic. Okay.
Okay.
Keep the end, because my experience is either control or dynamic. So keep control and dynamic. In the example of the screen that you can see, it's a good case study. The decision engine runs daily and scores every case against eligibility rules for each legal step. It can produce, so the outcome is pools, can produce pools, such the one you see in the screen for payment order or enforcement, as it's called in some countries, the first step of, let's say, going to litigation, foreclosure or auction tasks. Next, the officer reviews the relevant pool that they assigned to him and selects which cases to accelerate. This keeps the human in the loop, which is essential for legal control, judgment, and compliance. Okay, once the decision is validated, the platform executes in bulk. Payment notices are issued, foreclosure files are prepared, and auction notifications are sent. So the platform is not removing legal judgment. This cannot, it's not, we have not seen anywhere to work. Okay, it is organizing it. The system creates the eligible pools. Okay, so let me speak more, does all the dirty work, make the candidates, okay, then goes ready food to the officer to decide. So the second verb, decide, and then the platform executes at scale.
Okay, so what's the business impact, Gabor?
Thanks. I think as a summary for what Panos has described is already well visible on the left-hand cards and the right-hand side cards. The left-hand side is focusing on what the systems, what the platforms can do for us with the smart analytics, and on the right-hand side, what the people can, agents, users, whoever works in a platform, can still keep on in their own hands. So finding this right balance is actually one of the key of this kind of accelerated and more efficient, smarter way of doing the things. Before just like going into more details, I would just recall a memory of mine from the past when financial institution which was actually doing heavy, very strong lending for the subprime portfolios, and as a consequence, they had a very, very strong collection department where all the time just calling customers from morning to the evening. And many years ago, when they first introduced the progressive and then the predictive dialing, and people who were really veteran call center agents, they felt like, oh, now the machine is taking over the lead, and what will happen to our experience and knowledge and many years of my hard working as a good collection call center agent. That kind of issues were really solved by a good explanation. Let's find a balance, because machines will drive part of the things, but you as a human can focus more on what's your competence, what's your experience. So you really talk to the customers, and you are not listening to the dialing tones. And so that's happening very similarly in the legal area, which was, I think, a few years back. I wouldn't really expect this will happen like that. But so technically, bringing back to this example, to this actual legal and litigation focused example, the platform can identify the highest recovery potential cases to find those who really have to be taken care as fast as we can and as efficient as we can. Also, on a daily basis, it identifies what we have to do, what we have to take care of, and it doesn't only mean a longer, more pushy task list in the morning for the agents, but it's a real arranged, reasonable type of list what we have to do. But still, on the right hand side, what we can keep is control. I mean, we can refine the execution rules. We can still roll without heavy IT involvement. So technically, a good balance and cooperation between the two sides. And just I wouldn't want to skip the number 4 cards, because it's very, very important. Controlled automation, as Panos also highlighted, is very, very important. So whatever rules work, whatever rules are tested, whatever intelligence the platform applies by selecting the cases and suggesting the actions, at the end of the day, this is legal action. So the stake is high. Technically, that's why I could say the time of the experienced agents and colleagues are utilized much better than before. So every minute is more, let's say, valued than before, when they also had to take care of a lot of administrative, repetitive, operational level tasks instead of using the real competency. So I hope the message went through what I wanted to say with this.
Yeah, great. Okay, so I think it's a lot smarter. It becomes smarter, not because it's more aggressive, but it's just better prioritizing, better governed, better informed. So, I mean, the human in the loop is a big one. I like the fact that you've got that. That's fantastic. I'm going to ask if anybody's got any questions at this stage, because we don't have any yet. But if anyone feels free to ask any questions if you wish to, and what I'll do, we'll ask those at the end. So I'm going to move on now to talk about engagement, because I see that often this is treated as a completely separate problem, right? So we have different systems, different teams, different ownership, and from our perspective, the fragmentation that creates both cost to the customer and a cost risk. And there's so much noise in the market right now, particularly around AI and automation. So I'll challenge directly on this. So where does the current engagement technology actually fall short today, and what needs to change for it to be genuinely support better recovery decisions? You're on mute, Panos.
Sorry. The risk, again, is that your communications, actually the buzzword is your omni-channel strategy and approach becomes another fragmented layer. According to our experience in a lot of environments, customer data and history sits in the debt collection systems, legal systems. Then call routing sits in the CTI layer. Outbound campaigns sit in the dialer. And now we have AI or virtual voice agent that typically it's another dedicated solution. That creates multiple contracts you see on screen, multiple integration points, again, multiple support teams, and of course, multiple and complex, this is the keyword, upgrade cycles, since all these systems and that are most of the time from different vendors should be aligned both on time and on specification, integration specification. The result is that there is fragmentation. This fragmentation has for the organization a significant cost that is both direct, that okay, so is straightforward, but a lot of time indirect because it delays. The most important for us indirect cost is that delays implementations, all these let's say systems to be aligned, creates integration failures, okay, in production, makes incident ownership unclear. And here you know the classic blame game, okay, because
Yeah.
if there are multiple vendors, okay, they try to, let's say, blame the other system that is responsible, and okay, there is no clear incident ownership, and creates also procurement and support overhead that it's very significant. Okay, so from a customer perspective, additionally, okay, it can also create an inconsistent experience. The borrower does not see multiple systems, does not, they don't care. They should and expect to experience one conversation with your organization. So a smarter engagement model treats channels as part of the recovery operating model, not as disconnected systems. The human agents, automated dialer, the CTI layer that connects us to the borrowers, AI voice agent, and the required data, workflow automation, and most important, quality assurance should work together within one environment. And one of these, we call them HVAs from the initial humanized virtual agents, is genuinely differentiated. AI voice agents that customer consistently do not recognize nowadays are virtual. There is also who from your let's say the respective Turing test that if the people can recognize if there is AI in the system, and these systems should be mature, so to be in production across multiple markets and for a number of years. So that means the decision drive the communication. Okay, so we have who should be conducted, through which channel, which message, and at what moment. Then the response flows back into the process. Did the customer answer? What did they answer? They promised to pay? Did they require some sort of workout solution or restructuring? Did the interaction indicate vulnerability? Or they need special treatment that is under respective compliance laws? And every one of these conversations, either human or virtual, is automatically audited by AI for regulatory compliance, okay, contact risk, and customer vulnerability signals according to respective litigation and regulation. Not a sample 5%, because currently all the previous years, all these, they have a small percentage, typically quarterly or monthly reviewed by a QA team. Nowadays, we can run every interaction through scoring against the rules that matter to your organization first, your quality that you like to deliver, but also most important to your regulator. This is why engagement belongs inside the same loop. It is not only about sending messages. It is about turning every interaction into usable recovery intelligence.
So that brings us on nicely to the final verb, which is learn, right? So most organizations already have a reporting, they already have dashboards, they already have MI, performance tracking, but in reality, that often doesn't translate into better decisions. Okay, so where's the difference between monitoring performance and actually improving it? So more importantly, I suppose, is how quickly can organizations realistically adapt strategies in a regulated environment? Gabo?
Thanks for the question. And regarding what's the difference between monitoring and the real continuous learning and improvement, I wouldn't want to drop in one more example from far areas, but it's a good example when large banks apply an early warning system or just a process and start calculating different models and registering different signals, and then quarterly they have a committee and they sit together and analyze that now we have a lot of yellow and some reds from the last quarter, and that's actually feeling some sorrow around some bad news, but operationalizing what you learn, that's the key. And I think the slide itself tells a lot about it, or even it could be presented as a circle. The thing is, whatever we do, as soon as possible, we have to capture the outcomes. Of course, not all the actions can deliver some results right on the spot. Sometimes you have to wait. All of them have their own cycles, the time that you have to wait. But at the end of the day, whenever you captured the outcomes, the analytic cycle must very quickly technically apply the learnings and the findings. Of course, even if you say we have a daily analytic cycle, it doesn't bring you revolutionary differences from today to tomorrow, because not many things change within one day. But this continuous repeated practice, of course, can keep up a continuous improvement, continuous learning. So it's not just making our operation on a daily basis smoother or more transparent, but if we consequent with our practice, time to time, we can probably measure the improvements also in the quality of what we do. So it has many different angles. So what I would just as a conclusion for this slide, it's not magic. It's just simply being consequent on always processing the learnings.
Okay, a business analyst can do this without waiting for long IT release cycles, right? So
hopefully, yes. I mean, not just hopefully, but so technically, so I'm talking about a big picture from a distance. But yes, if we step closer, then it's that's the key, that we have the total control, and those small things at the end of the day lead to big numbers in the KPIs. And it's an important component of this whole structure and framework, that AI and advanced analytics can be considered as something cloudy, foggy, mysterious stuff, and we don't know how much we can trust or not. And this discussion could lead back to the regulation, how the EU is approaching this and so on. But since the large language models can bring the whole AI and the way how machines technically thinking. So the language models can bring it close to the everyday user, to the human way of thinking. So the mental models can meet somewhere halfway. Then we are in a very good position. At the end of the day, computers and these platforms serve us well, and that's what a decision analytic assistant can do, which is not the everyday ChatGPT type of partner for you, but it can go deep into data and can tell you what decision is made of by what factors and what led to something. So the real analytics work can be speed up and it's a bit of more accessible for all the people who understands, but they before that they didn't understand the SQL mechanics and syntaxes and so on. So at the end of the day, the human control and the chance to understand all the details is something tangible. Is something it can be your everyday habit. So that's why I'm thinking this is also an important component to build up this whole litigation framework.
Yeah, I mean, I remember when I reviewed Relational during the Arum Approved certification, and particularly like this area, and it was like AI chat. You tell it to basically do some nice reports for you if you want. You know, you can do that kind of stuff, but you can also go more in depth with it, and it gets some really in-depth reports that you probably would take you a lot longer to just manually think about, whereas you can just ask the chat to do it and it will do it for you. And so creating like dashboards, it was incredibly powerful. And I believe you call it AI Assistance Explorer, you can use to also diagnose the chats afterwards. And I thought that's great for using, you know, generative AI to look at the AI usage and everything else. And yeah, that was phenomenal. You could even get the SQL code, if I remember right. You could get the code behind the scenes of what it was doing, and it'll tell you that. Yeah, is it absolutely fantastic. Now we've got one question in. So if anybody's got any more, feel free to quickly post them over, and I'll hand these out to the Relational team to answer. But if I take a step back and summarize the decision and the discussion so far, I think the message is pretty clear. Better recoveries are not driven by increasing legal activity. They're driven by better decisions and smarter. And so improving the quality, the timing, the consistency of the decisions behind that activity. And that requires a connected operating model, not just better tools. Yeah, and yours is obviously very connected. Now I'm going to open the chat up a bit here shortly. And I just want to get over Arum Approved a bit more of why we do that and what we did with your system. And so many organizations that we see them struggle, not in understanding what good looks like, but in confidently identifying which platforms or solutions can actually deliver it. And that's where we come in with the independent validation. We are relying on vendor claims that are very difficult to test until after you've implemented them. And that's why basically the Arum Approved framework exists. It's designed to address that by providing a structured, evidence-based assessment of whether a solution can support better decisions, can support better customer outcomes, and has a stronger governance with more efficient operations. And ultimately, it's about helping organizations make lower risk and better informed technology decisions. So I'm going to open up now to the audience, and we've covered so much ground. I'll moderate the questions. We've only got one so far. The question is, if you could recommend one change that would have the greatest impact on improving both litigation efficiency and recovery rates, What would it be and why?
Okay, I will take this. So what we have seen in practice is to follow the practice of eligibility pools and then automation where possible. So some pools maybe are ready, and the ones that are not, give to your officers all the required information to take this decision. We have success stories that we can discuss in more private scenarios that they gain. They will have services that will have, let's say, huge improvements in, let's say, liquidation rates by applying this practice, because it gets from the best from both worlds. So having the automation up to the point that works, and then legal officer take care, and then again work in bulk, not one by one, because now the volumes are not, as Gabor said, like in the past, that there are a few cases. So banks and services have, and especially NPL portfolios, the volumes are very large. So you don't have, let's say, the luxury to work not bulk, one by one. So decide human in the loop to take the final decision and then execute in bulk. This is, I believe, the secret sauce.
Secret sauce, indeed. So we have another question. Is now, what does a realistic transition look like for an organization moving from fragmented workflows into a connected operating model, and what are the common sticking points? So I'll read that again. That's, what does a realistic transition look like for an organization moving from fragmented workflows into a connected operating model, and what are the sticking points?
Yeah, I believe the first. Okay, Gabor, will like.
No, you can continue. I just wanted to mention it. That's a big chunk. So the data foundation as something that you cannot even start think about anything without having it. Also, it's cultural matters, and so it won't be answered by any fancy looking Starship solution from any fintech initiatives. That's really a cultural and operational transformation. And yeah, we can mention some sticking points if you Panos want to continue.
Okay, so fragmented workflows. Our typical, if we talk especially for litigation, they come from fragmented data. So our experiences when we go to these departments, information is not in one place. Most of the time, everyone has their own Excels or some local, let's say, silo that keep their data. So the first point to go to the, let's say, unified workflow is to gather all the data in the system, but at the same time give back to the users the Excels, because this is for us. Okay, let's say a deal. We can have this, let's say, promise that you are going to have what you have today, but let's move everything, gather everything, organize everything, and run everything through the system, so you can have the holistic view, the 360 view. Okay, so the first one is gather the data. Okay, and then this is the first and the critical step, and then you need systems that can support, let's say, an operating model that is frictionless. Okay, and so the sticky points you asked is all the data in one place, and systems that their integration is, let's say, seamless and can work together, so they can move the case, for example, from collections to acceleration and recoveries, and then maybe litigation, and then a write-off, and also manage at the end, also have the even the real estate owned. So you have real estate that you have liquidated, what you do with them. So everything should be, let's say, in systems that are well connected. better to be, let's say, the least system, the better.
Yeah. So more importantly, it's about getting the data, right? So it's getting the data in there.
Yes.
Okay. So the next question I have is what is the question that organizations should be asking their current system that most of them aren't asking of their current system? So what should they be looking at their system, thinking about, and what are you not doing that you should be?
Okay, it's just for me. I feel strange in this
Difficult question,
because
right?
not a difficult question, because I feel always I have a engineering background, and always I start from the problem. So I ask a question because I am looking some KPIs, I'm looking some metrics, I have some benchmarks. So I'm an organization that I'm below the benchmarks. Okay, so first, our approach is to start and see where an organization stands relative to benchmarks of the domain and the country and everything, and then realizing where we're not at the optimal stage because there is an optimal region. Then we go back and ask questions about why we are here, and each system, what is the role of this, let's say, that we need to gap and we need to improve in order to get the performance according to the benchmarks and the standards. Okay, so I will do like this, the approach. First, let's say, pinpoint what is our target, what I need, what is my operational KPIs targets, where I'm, let's say, failing, I'm not in the acceptable level, and then start to ask questions specifically. Why this, for example, why I'm not having the liquidation, the auctions, okay, relative to another organization, okay, that are very successful. Okay, then we'll go the question to the systems and ask the underlying processes how can be, let's say, reviewed or upgraded.
Thank you, Panos. So if there's one thing, I think we're going to close now. So if there's one thing, at least one thing that you would like people to remember from today's webinar, what would that be? And I'll hand that to both of you. So Panos, I don't know who wants to go first, but what is one thing that you could take away from today's?
I believe it's our model. It's not our model. I think this is a generic model, so I don't want to get the ownership. But I would like to always remember that you have to follow these 4 simple words. First decide, then execute, then engage, and then learn. And this goes to the loop. So this is my...
Yeah, I really think the loop bit was really good there. So what you mentioned, Gabor, about the loop, it looked like end to end, which is unfortunate, but it is definitely a loop. It's yeah, great. And Gabor, any from you?
Bit similar. Like I think we all understand that, like, increasing the raw power or just pushing hardware or agents and or customers or whatever phases of a process is something that can bring you benefits for a very short period only, and then like also as Pareto rules and everything steps in, you can do more. So technically, it's in the long run, it's never about quantity, but more of quality and quality of decisions. And quality of decisions can be increased by better quality of data, better processing, using more customer insights, also generating more customer engagement, because that can generate you data and then you can once again analyze. So technically, this kind of everyday loop and the consequent staying on this track, that's a natural organic improvement in quality also the whole process. So I think that can summarize my view.
Excellent. Okay. We don't have any more questions, guys. So I think we're going to close it there. But I'd like to thank everyone for joining today. I think it's been a really good session, and thank you both from Relational. And
Our pleasure.
We'll see you next time.
Thank you very much, all.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.